Salvis Search for the Universe, Chapter 9, Part 2. Branelkoff's bells jingled in terror. His feet kicked up clouds of dust with his long-legged stride. His arms, pumped like dairy maidens were churning butter, was the only thing that could hold back the end of times, and the buttery was currently on fire. As a man of aesthetics, he bellowed such eloquent phrases such as "Bois" and "Wah" as he sprinted, leaping over massive logs and furrows that he would have guessed impossible if not for the desperation and necessity pushing him forward. Salvi ran a few feet ahead, hands in the air. She was so much smaller than him. How was she running faster?
"You're both monsters! Tell him to leave us alone!"
he screamed at Salvi.
"Salvi not speak, bah!"
She shouted back, ducking under low-hanging branches that smacked him in the groin. The monstrous bag galloped, salivating, roaring, its beady eyes fixed on two meaty snacks jogging ahead, branches snapping like twigs. The undulating mass of black fur ploughed through trees and rocks in a way only a half-ton beast of muscle and hide could. Why did it turn out like this? Of all the trees he decided to take a leak on. Branelkoff screamed again, despite himself. He needed that air for running. He had no idea where they lost the road, but getting lost was the least of their concerns right now.
"Branelkoff play music! Music calm animals, yes?"
She pressed her hat into her head to keep it from flying away. To worry about such a thing in this situation. He had heard all the great bards could tame animals using music. Could he? He grabbed his lute, felt his destiny pulse through his fingertips, and turned, staring the charging beast in the eyes. He could feel it. His whole life was nothing more than a prelude to this moment. The curtains rose. It was time for the crescendo. His fingers slid down the strings, and the air began to hum. He strung the first dozen notes, and the bear swiped the lute out of his hands. He screamed, dove for the instrument, dodged the beast's next attack, rolled, grabbed it, breaking off into a run.
"It didn't bloody work!"
he shouted accusingly. The bear was breathing down his neck. Its roars were making him deaf. The earth shook beneath his feet. He ran like no minstrel had ever run before. His bells continued to jingle the mismatched tintinnabulary dirge. His legs were a blur, and with enough adrenaline coursing through his veins to kill most small mammals, he caught up to Salvi. He did not have the breath to spare for screams, but his mind went something like, "Shit, shit, shit, fuck." He whipped his head around, caught a glance, and leapt forwards. The wicked black claws sighed through his clothes and snatched the flesh of his back. He collided with Salvi, tumbled them both onto the ground in a pile of spinning limbs. They windmilled ahead, spinning and bouncing while momentum forced them forward. They spun and tumbled, bounced off a rock, and went right over the lip of the ravine. Down, down, down.
What?
Lord Farrell rose on his hands, growing tall to stare them down from atop the elevated platform his desk was set upon.
Tell that to me again.
They have escaped the city, Lord. Malcolm kneeled before him. He did not dare meet his eyes. Travellers entering Luhorn reported seeing a kobold matching our description, walking with what appeared to be a jester on the road towards Klosterfelk. He slammed his desk. Everyone in the room jumped.
And how did they escape? Pray tell.
His words were slow and razor sharp.
They escaped through the barracks of the North Gate, through the hidden exit in the back, behind the weapons racks.
He pounded the desk 3 more times.
Are all those secrets known by every waif and beggar? You mean to tell me they walked into the city's own barracks and escaped unharmed? And can men not stop a single intruder in their own homes?
He forced his anger down and compressed it into cold rage.
How long do you intend to make a fool of me, Malcor?
Malcor shook, his eyes pinched shut.
Guards!
Farrell's called to the back of the room. The 2 of them stepped forward. Malcor heard them stop, heard the rasp of the scabbards, as Farrell's commanded them to draw their weapons. His own men. He threw himself to the ground, pleading.
Mercy, Lord, forgive this misbehaved wretch.
He cried out with all his heart.
The well of mercy has not dried.
He leaned forward.
Let me hear your paltry excuses, but they better be satisfactory.
His throat growled.
Very, very satisfactory. Yes, my lord. Meet my eyes.
He looked up from the floor, felt himself shrink under that withering gaze. He spilled it out, speaking fast.
All our guards were stationed on the streets or at the gate, and it left our barracks usually barren. 3 guards were stationed there, but the intruder dispatched all 3 of them, killing 2 and critically injuring 1. The survivor was able to raise alarm from what he has told us. We are certain it was the same man that assaulted the castle yesterday morning. And how did he pass through the gate? Surely you do not expect me to believe he was able to pick all 3 locks before backup arrived. He was in possession of the key.
Lord Farrowls raised an eyebrow.
I still have possession of mine, as does Abram and you, my lord. The key must have come from Bandar. According to his soldiers, he vanished earlier today on his way to relieve himself, and he has not been seen since. We believe he was assassinated by the intruder, who then stole the key and disposed of his body before assaulting the barracks. But, my lord, to think they knew the secrets of the passages! Who could have predicted such a thing?
Malcor. The blades drew closer to his neck.
Do not presume to tell me how to think.
Malcor swallowed.
And why did you not pursue him? He locked the gates behind him. I was in the West District conducting my investigation. Riders were sent after him immediately, but when they reached the other end of the passage, he was nowhere to be found. Had he been on foot, they would have caught him, but after searching the area, they found traces of a camp and the spoor of 2 horses. Sometime after that, we received word that he was sighted on the road to Klostervalk. He appeared to have changed clothes, and they were without horses. That is all I know, Lord.
Farrells sat and considered. Were they trying to throw them off course by appearing on the road to Klostervalk, just to ride in the opposite direction? It didn't matter. They knew nothing of their employers, nor their purpose. Whether genuine or not, they had no choice but to follow it. He broke off his thought and was forced to look at the unpleasant face of Malcor, holding his breath so hard he looked about to turn blue. He really should just kill the man, but he had no one suitable to fill the position, and finding one in the middle of a crisis would be an unacceptable waste of time. He waved his hand, and the guards retreated. Malcor kissed the floor, thanked him profusely. Let him believe it was mercy.
We were already prepared for such an event. Perhaps with our commanding officers such as they are, you could call it an inevitability. Send word to Tybalt. He is to depart immediately.
A guard saluted, then dashed out of the room.
As for you, Malcor,
the man looked up.
Seeing as they are no longer inside the city, they are no longer any of your concern. Congratulations. Our intruder has saved me the trouble of executing Bandar. You are a hair's breadth away from the same.
Of course, Lord.
Make yourself useful and organize a search for Bandar's corpse. Make sure it was not disposed of in any wells or waterways. I don't want to find several days later his rotting body poisoning half my citizens.
Yes, my lord.
And make preparations to fill that blasted tunnel, seeing as it is not so secret anymore.
Absolutely, my lord. He rose to his feet and began shooting orders left and right, determined to show off his spirit. Then exited the room as quickly as possible, probably far more excited to escape the Lord's sight as he was to get to work. Lord Farrells allowed his breath to escape in a way nearing a sigh, but not quite. He looked at Abram, who had been sitting there the whole time, but was so lost in thought, it was likely he hadn't heard a single thing. The mouth of a man had been like that for hours. It looked like he had no choice but to rely on his advisor's counsel once again. Berman nursed an ale in his favourite tavern. It wasn't the best place around. Actually, it was kind of a dump. The walls were crumbling in places, and light shone through the timber. But the people were all good folk, and the food was, well, as good as you could expect for the price. It wasn't like those fancy taverns that travellers and merchants went to, but it wasn't like those shanky shacks that served lukewarm piss water to beggars for their lone dirty coppers. It was the tavern for good working men. It was lively but not raucous, and even the worst bar fights would always end with everyone linking arm in arm by the end of the evening. Every day, as soon as he finished ferrying, he would come here. It wasn't like he had much to do at home after his wife ran away with that fruity tart from some faraway country. His kids were long gone too. Ferrying wasn't quite the profession you passed down the family, and they both left for greener pastures after their mother left. Good for them, though he still thought about them sometimes. Most would say coming here every day was a waste of money, but he was a simple man. There wasn't much he wanted, and all he needed for his job was his boat and an oar. If he didn't come here every day, he would be at a loss at how to spend his money. Today was different, though. He had spent almost the entire day sitting inside the tavern. Why? Because the gods wouldn't let him outside to do his bloody job. He should have appreciated the day off, but all it did was make him achingly bored.
Evening, Brown.
The voice sat down beside. He knew all the regulars here. That one was Galley, the carpenter. His work was good, but not quite good enough to expand beyond the occasional share or repair.
Slay any more monsters out there?
He joked. They both laughed. Of course, Galley was referring to the cobalt teeth necklace he was wearing. It was originally a bracelet, but he had thought it looked better around his neck. He had been surprised to find he actually liked the look, and that got him thinking. His muscles were pretty big, built from years of rowing and healthy amounts of ale, so why not show them off a bit? It wasn't like he was married or anything. So he had torn off the sleeves of his shirt, and couldn't help but take it a step further. He shaved his hair on the sides like the way the northern warriors he ferried occasionally did, then lined the armholes with fur, and gained an appreciation for leather apparel. While he was at it, he figured he might as well get a bigger knife too, just to match the look. If people looked at him and thought he had slain the kobold himself, well, that was their business. He didn't need to correct them.
Evening.
Harvey sat down. Evening, replied Berman.
Evening.
Replied Galley.
Anything those guys running about? What's that all about? How they were looking for a kobold or something?
Brown choked on his ale.
Guess they're turning him to a real problem around here. Eh, Berman?
He nudged him in the ribs playfully.
Ah, aye.
Evening, boys, said Benjamin.
Evening.
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 See all those guards out there? Are they looking for some kinda kobold? He would have nudged Berman playfully, if not for Galley sitting between them. They ought to call on old Berman here, to show him a thing or two. They all laughed, Berman a tad more nervously than the rest. Aye, what's going on, Thar? Harvey pointed. They followed his fingers through a group of guards standing at the entrance. Their finely lacquered armor stuck out from the middle-class decor like diamonds in dung. Berman met their eyes, and he wished he hadn't. He looked away, but they were already locked on. They weaved through tables, all eyes on them, and stopped behind Berman. Is your name Berman?
Yes, sir.
Would you come with us? He asked, but the tone of his voice made it clear there wasn't much choice in the matter. He stood up and left with the entourage of guards. Harvey looked at Benjamin.
Shit, you was right.
He was brought with haste to the gates, where there stood an army of 200 to 300 soldiers. They wasted no time questioning him, and he spilled the whole story as quickly as he could. And there was one word that stuck in their minds: Panes.